Good afternoon, everybody. So, more or less, we have studied and covered up the syllabus, but yet I thought that at length, if in case we want, we have our lectures, so why not repeat certain segments and specifically the details that are there of the play that is there, School for Scandal, and the novel Untouchable. I hope that you're reading the text in the classroom as well. I mean, at home. In the classroom, we've discussed each of the segments very cautiously, but for the sake of the class and for the detailed discussions that we have not been able to have because of paucity of time, and now we have to condense everything within the lectures, I am going to today take up School for Scandals again with you. So, as we see further, I hope am I audible? I hope I am audible to everybody. Yeah, thank you. So if you look at it, that there has been an omen which is surrounded the birth of Richard Brinsley Sheridan, who is the author, who was born in 1751 and lived until 1816. So the situations have not been very favorable when you read about it, that how he was born in Dublin in Ireland in September or in October in 1751. It is surprising that as late as 1751, the exact date and month of Sheridan's birth was not properly recorded in Dublin. And it was very unusual to baptize a child, Thomas Brinsley, who had an old family name, who had to be given an elder brother who died before he was born, and then to change his name to Richard, right? So there is a certain lack of order that is there in the management of affairs, that you see that now you kind of somehow feel that it happened for certain reasons. So there was a family tradition which meant that there was an appropriate background for this kind of life that Sheridan had to live. His grandfather was Thomas Sheridan, doctor of divinity, was schoolmaster, and he was significantly a friend of Jonathan Swift, another very popular writer. He was completely lacking in discretion. He sacrificed a lot of opportunities for the very fact that he preferred that poor Hagridon moving from post to post. He died as a very poor person. Now, Richard Brinsley's father was Thomas Sheridan, who was an actor. And again, he had attained some success. But firstly, if you look at it, that he attained that success in Dublin and then he moved to England. His mother, Frances, actually was an author before she was 21. She later on wrote some of the famous works as well. For example, she wrote this text called Miss Sydney Biddulph, which is a very famous novel, and two plays as well were written by his mother. Now, Thomas Sheridan became an educator and a lecturer. He was forth on the virtue of oratory and rhetoric, and despite his noble ventures, the family actually moved to France in 1754 because they were in debt. So they wanted to escape. Now, Brinsley was not successful as a student. He wrote some works as well. His friend composed a burlesque opera, Jupiter, entitled Jupiter, which you may find in the script in the work called The Critic. The larger work is Critic. And in 1771, Richard was only 20, where Thomas Sheridan moved to Bath. And Bath was a place which was considered, beneath everything that Sheridan had written. You found that Sheridan was much inspired by this place. So the Rivals was also set in the place called the Bath. The School for Scandal was set in London, but in its earliest version that you find, which was published, it was located in Bath. And it always retained a very flavor of the very life that he saw at this place called Bath, where his father moved there. Okay. So further, as we move ahead, we see that Bath was of great importance to Sheridan. And there was another reason that he met Elizabeth and Lenley. a very popular singer of ballads here. And in this way, this was the real life source of his play as well. So eventually you find that there was a courtship of 18-year-old, already famous artist by a 19-year-old Sheridan who was working, right? So you understand that his first play, that was The Rivals, that Sheridan had written, he drew on Bath for his background. And it was also difficult to believe that he drew on his own love affair where he was talking about it. The hindrance to the marriage in the play that had been there in The Rivals, the play, is a different cause. And then that was the time when he wrote School for Scandal sometime in 1777. So we understand that Sheridan had grown as a rapidly, in his writings as well. And in 1776, he became one of the proprietors of Drury Lane Theatre as well. So the School for Scandal was a play that was written for his own theatre company, and his enthusiasm eventually waned off. So this year he was the manager and the co-manager. The theatre was consciously misgoverned. For the rest of his life, you found that Sheridan was repeatedly in need of money, and Drury Lane suffered from callous indifference as well. Okay. Um, so if you look at it, Sheridan's life has had a very fascinating history, and in turn, it's brilliant and treacherous and villainous characters that have been around in his plays as well, reflected in his plays as well, have been an outcome of whatever his lived experiences have also been. So in 1780, he was elected in the parliament where he found a theatre. He thought that this could be a place which would be most suitable for his talent. And his life was twined with the lives of great and the problem of the state, where daily personal affairs were also discussed. Now, most of the plays that he was writing, actually, he was either writing comedy of manners, or, you find that there are comedy of character types. These plays are intriguing, and because they are talking about comedy of situation, there's wit in his plays, there is satire and commentary. He's actually talking about idyllic love stories that are there, which might appeal the audience. So comic figures in his plays represent satire on society. That is much evident. And the success as a comic figure, you might find that it is on the lines of the wit that he's creating because of the situation that person is in, right? So these are some of the segments which actually, or the reasons which make Sheridan a very different playwright. Now, we'll talk about School for Scandals particularly as a play. But before that, I would also want to talk about how he's actually emphasizing on comic situation. So, it's important that while you are reading Sheridan's play, you understand the nuances of writing comedy and reading comedy, because the comic effect that Sheridan brings in is that of a genius caliber. So the comic situation is easier to describe than to define. You look at the character who's talking freely about another character, and then finds that object is malicious. There are malicious remarks by other character being overheard, and that leads to a comic situation. Sometimes it could be a middle-aged widow who could be thinking that he's wooing a beautiful belle, and then so there are cowards who are dueling. Duel is a fight that's there between the people, right? Those were the times when it was very popular. So in Sheridan, you find that all these situations are comic, and there are many writers who lose the comic touch when business of the plot is So some people consider that the screen scene that is there in School for Scandal is one of the greatest comic scenes in the English drama. And the plot, if in case you look at it, it's a very melodramatic scene. The comic scene is great because the manner in which Sheridan has taken the advantage of all the possibilities that could have been there. Joseph is attempting seduction and has a hilarious truth revealed to Sir Peter. Sir Peter, who is creating a cute embarrassment in his host, and we can enjoy that situation as well. In the light of what audience know, Peter and Charles, they are having inconsiderable comic irony between them. So even in the fifth act of the play, you find that Sheridan is very busy tying up the loose ends of the play. He still discovers and exploits comic potential of the play. Uh, you see it when Sir Oliver arrives. Now, in his own person, both brothers find cause to manhandle him. Both are anxious, and quite different reasons are there for them to get rid of Sir Oliver. So, scene by scene, you examine the two plays that they showcase. Every scene is handled so that it becomes into a comic situation. And behind all these situations, you find that Sheridan had almost never just getting on with the play. He's actually introducing each of Joseph's attempt to seduce his visitor. That also includes wit of a different order. Lady Teasel's character, you find that audience in the passage includes many levels of irony as well. He cannot mean what he says, and she cannot be taken in. Yet, audience actually find there is so much truth in both of their conversation. Okay. Mm, so now let's look at play that we have got, The School for Scandal. Sheridan has actually worked for some time on the two sketches that were there in The Slanderers and The Teasels, which is afterward, it got combined into a play which now we know as The School for Scandal. But the two plays were never completely together or integrated together. So in the play called The Slanderous, Lady Sneerwell is Maria's guardian. This is another play that is there, but she's actively engaged in the breakup or the love affair between Maria and Claremont. Now, Claremont is Charles in this play, and to gain him for herself. So, by the time the School for Scandal reached the stage, Lady Sneerwell's love plot is reduced to the point where it is mentioned in the first act and appears again in the fifth act. So, when she's feeble, she's attempting the intrigue idea of her love affair. So, one of the group of the gossips in the slanderer has been formed as a part of two linked love triangles, but in the plot of School for Scandal, there is no inclusion of that. There's another work called The Teasels, where two brothers have quoted a lady named Maria, and there are some drafts that were found where you find the ward of Teasel in others, the niece of his wife, and you find that Joseph, who's there, he tries to seduce Lady Teasel and also loves or at least woos Maria. So this is a plot that was there, and in the other plays you find the same plot that has been retained in the School for Scandal play as well. Okay, so what has happened is there were two different character sketches that he found, and those two characters were combined here, and they came together in the play called School for Scandal. So Lady Sneerwell's plot is also mentioned here. The gossip that supply brilliant scene that is there in the plot. The hero of the play, the young lover, is also introduced and is not introduced until Act 3. So his counterparts are appearing in the play as both the sketches have been mentioned. So strangely enough, you find that the lovers, Charles and Maria, they never meet on the stage until there is last scene in the play. So the play is now having double plot. The two parts are, as in usual, one plot is concerned with Teasel's domestic life. In other, with the two brothers, Joseph and Charles are surfacing. So Joseph, the elder brother, is a hypocritical, noble sentiment person. Charles is careless but open-hearted and generous young man. He's related to the tale of the brothers. So there's a love triangle as well. And the woman is there to trap Charles into the marriage. Neither of these plot is actually having complications that will be fully developed. So Joseph Surface is the hypocritical brother who wishes to marry Maria, who is the wealthy ward of Sir Peter Teazle, and she's in love with Charles. Joseph decides to speed Charles' financial ruins that are there. You find that he also conspires with Lady Sneerwell, thinking of who knows that Joseph is a hypocrite and believes that Charles will necessarily be able to turn her, for she is very wealthy. Then you have another character called Sir Peter Teazle, who later in his life marries a very young girl from the country, and he thinks that a woman who is unaccustomed to city extravagances would actually make a more dutiful wife. However, Lady Teazle adjusted all too eagerly to fashionable city life. So at home you find Lady Sneerwell. She is met as Joseph Surface, and she's intrigued by him, although she has not consented to an affair, but she does enjoy playing with fire. A little bit of flirtations that you find there in the play. So the part of the plot, this is to discredit Charles. So Lady Sneerwell has actually spread the rumor that he and Lady Teazles are having an affair as well. So both the brothers are supported by the generous bounty of an unmarried uncle in India. Uncle has now returned to England without their knowledge and prepares to test them to decide who shall be his heir. So Sir Peter, a very old friend, is completely taken by Joseph, and Rowley, an old family retainer, disrupts Joseph to feel Charles is the better of the two people. Okay. So rest of the plot we have already discussed at length. You already have the SLM also with you. I just wanted to know your viewpoints on the play, or if in case you have any doubts. Raman and Saiba.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, are you following the play?
Yes,
Are the
ma'am.
acts clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So more or less, just this was a brief introductory sort of a thing that you can write in your answers. जब आप writer के बारे में लिखना चाहोगे या little bit you want to write about the play in the beginning, all of that I have discussed today. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, बेटा.
मैम वो फाइनल एग्जाम कब है?
क्या बोल रहे हो बेटा?
मैम मैं कह रही हूँ फाइनल एग्जाम कब से है?
फाइनल एग्जाम की डेट शीट आपको आएगी. अभी
ओके
क्लियर नहीं है बेटा.
ओके वैसे मैम कौन से मंथ में होगा?
हाँ जी.
मैम विच मंथ?
Date sheet will be shared by the office people sometime on your class group. I'm not too sure about the date sheet.
ओके मैम.
Okay. Yeah. But you must start preparing on your own end. Okay.
ओके मैम.
Yeah. Okay. Okay then.
ओके.
Thank you.